want to address, though, the piece that Kyle Korver wrote for the Players Tribune today. It's titled Privileged. In the piece, Korver shares his own feelings on the incident between Thabo Sefolosha and the NYPD back in 2015. This was back when Korver and Sefolosha were teammates on the Hawks. He talks about how his reaction at the time is not something he's really proud of now. He also talks about how all this was brought up after the incident between Russell Westbrook and that fan in Utah on March 11th. It's about so much more than that, though, because he addresses the issue of white privilege. In the piece, Korver asked the following questions. He says, quote, how can I, as a white man, part of this systemic problem, become part of the solution when it comes to racism in my workplace, in my community, in this country? As for the Westbrook situation, Korver writes, quote, this wasn't only about Russ and some heckler. It was about more than that. It was about what it means to just exist right now as a person of color in a mostly white space. It was about racism in America. Korver also noted that as a white man, I have to hold my fellow white men accountable. We all have to hold each other accountable. I would urge everyone out there to read the full piece. Kyle Korver didn't have to co-write this. He went out and did it and put his name and wanted to put the conversation out there, not among the people who are forced to have it every day, whether they like it or not, but the people who maybe aren't having it quite enough, him taking that time to reflect about how he can be more of an agent for change. Byron, what did you think upon reading and hearing about this?
The first time I heard, I said, preach. I said, Kyle, preach to the people, because we do try to sweep this under the rug, and it's so much. It's so different when a black guy says, or a person of color says, there's so much racism in the world, there's so much racism going in. I got passed over because of the color of my skin for a promotion. I didn't get this particular job because of the color of my skin. So I thought what he said was riveting. I thought it was mind-blowing at certain times. And I also thought it was very educational, because now you have one of your own, and I'm talking about the people, the Caucasian people in the society. You have one of your own standing up and telling you that in the workplace, he sees this almost on a day-to-day basis, and he wants to be one of the guys out front recognizing that it's not fair on all levels, and that people of color do get treated differently. And he does feel privileged at times. And I think it was great that he just brought this to our attention. And again, I want to applaud him, because if you read the piece, it is really riveting.
There was a really interesting portion at the bottom of the piece where he says that, look, in a league that's 75% people of color, I am a very recognizable white name, and so it presents very, and he put ... interesting undertones. He realizes that, he's a symbol for possibly for the right reasons, possibly for the wrong reasons to a certain fan base. And he said,
Great White Hope.
Hey, listen, just know that if you do buy my jersey, if I am a symbol for you, know that this is what I believe.
Right.
And I thought that was just that was a really interesting commentary.
Yeah, and look, part of it is understanding, as you say, Byron, this person might be discriminated against because of what they look like, but also understanding if you are someone who has been given all the automatic advantages at birth that you get from being white in this country right now at this time, you have to understand how far that puts you ahead of other people before anyone does anything that you earned or didn't earn, that you are starting from so far ahead. And having Kyle come out and say that, as you say, someone that maybe is, as he put it in the piece, he goes, when I look around an NBA game, I look more like a lot of the fans than I do like the players. And I want you to know that I see this. And I think that's why you saw the tweets from some of the other players. I think that's part of what was so moving too. It's them saying, oh, you recognize this, you see what's really going on.
Yeah, you know what, I've been a big Kyle Korver fan for a long time, and obviously it has nothing to do with the color of his skin. It's the way he plays the game. The way he's able to come off screens and shoot the ball, when a lot of people, when he got drafted, said this kid can't play. He's worked his way up into a 12, 13, 14-year NBA career because of his work ethic and the way he goes out and does his business every day, every single day. I'm a much bigger fan of Kyle Korver because of what I read today.
And he does talk about that incident with Thabo Sefolosha and the New York police outside of that nightclub. And he says, look, Thabo was my teammate. We were close. He wasn't just someone on my team. We were friends. He said, my first thought when I saw the news report the next day is, what's he doing out at that club? It wasn't, oh, wait, he got attacked by the police. And if you remember from that incident, look, Thabo was injured in that exchange. It cost him the rest of his season. And later, he won a civil case against the New York police. That it was false arrest, that they did not have any right to put their hands on him the way they did. And Kyle said that now, thinking about it, he would say, oh, if it was me, I never would have been arrested. If he was walking out of a club as white dude Kyle Korver at that time of night, he believes even if he had gotten into some sort of exchange, he would not have gotten into that physical kind of altercation and been arrested by the police. And realizing that, he said, was part of what really sort of moved him, especially as this incident in Utah happened.
Yeah, I covered that Hawks team,
Yeah.
and sat with Thabo for Sportsnet on that. And it was very interesting. At the time, the conversations kind of going on inside the Hawks organization, and it was a really crystallizing point, not only for that franchise, which had endured all kinds of indignities, comments made by previous owner Bruce Levinson, but also just sort of the conversation was just propelled at that moment inside the organization. It was interesting to cover.
Go read the piece. Excellent work by the Players Tribune and Kyle Korver.